So we have just recently found out who the top 3 final candidates are for the MVP award. Obviously, the MVP is the most talked about award and probably the most important individual regular season award. That's led me to make this video where I'll be discussing the 3 final candidates' arguments for the MVP award. The candidates are Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Then at the end of the video, I'll come to a conclusion on who I think should win. Before we get into the video, I ask you to drop a like on this video as it does help my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to reach my goal of 3,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video as I do respond to all of my comments. And play that intro. To start the video off, I'm going to start with Giannis Antetokounmpo's MVP case. His case is pretty simple. He's putting up some of the best numbers in the league. For being honest, Giannis has been putting up historical numbers for the last 3 years, but because he's Giannis, we've grown accustomed to it. Giannis this season averaged 30 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, shooting over 50% from the field, and on top of that, he's playing top 5 defense in the league. He's definitely one of the most valuable players in the league. When you look at the advanced stats, he's at the top of a lot of advanced stats. To name some stats, he's at the top of defensive box plus minus, he's second. Offensive blocks plus minus, he's second. And offensive win shares, he's second. And he has the second best player efficiency rating in the league. So it's just clear that Giannis is a huge help to his team. Also, out of all the candidates left, Giannis is tied with Joel Embiid for the most wins, but I think Giannis' team is the higher seed, so that obviously helps his case. We also have to realize that Giannis has been dominant on both sides of the floor, better than any of the other top 3 candidates. Giannis' team record is honestly really impressive when you realize several of his key guys were missing plenty of games. Guys like Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday missed over 15 games. Brook Lopez missed basically the whole season except for 13 games. The only thing I would say is a huge negative for Giannis' MVP case is the fact that he has played the least amount of games out of the top 3 candidates. He's only played 67 games, whereas Jokic has played 74 and Embiid has played 68. But overall, Giannis has had a phenomenal season. Definitely has a good case for the MVP award. And in other years, he probably would be the runaway MVP. If we're going to discuss Nikola Jokic's case for the MVP award, his is not as simple. Yes, he's putting up the best numbers in the league. He's averaging 27 points, 14 rebounds, 8 assists, shooting only 2% less than 60% from the field. And I know earlier I was talking about how Giannis is at the top of every advanced stat, but Jokic is literally number 1 in every single advanced stat you look at. You heard I was saying Giannis was number 2 in everything. That's because Jokic was number 1 in everything. This guy's having an all-time great season. For an individual player, he's probably been the best player this season. He's leading a Denver Nuggets team whose second best player is Aaron Gordon to a top 6 seed in the Western Conference. That's not just something you can ignore. The team around him is absolutely terrible. When Jokic is on the floor, the Nuggets are actually one of the best teams in the league. When Jokic is off the floor, they're one of the worst teams in the league. And in my opinion, that definitely helps their case because he's leading a team this terrible to one of the best records in the league. That just shows how valuable he is. And we just look at the stats, this guy is definitely the most valuable player to his team. And that's something that could really help his case out. To talk about Joel Embiid's case for the MVP, it's pretty similar to Giannis's, putting up some of the best numbers in the league on one of the better teams in the league. He was the scoring leader in the NBA, averaging 30 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 49% from the field, above 36% from 3. The first center to be the league's leading scorer since 2000, and that guy was Shaquille O'Neal. He was the last one to do it. Joel definitely had a historical season. We've never seen a big man be this dominant since Shaq or Jokic last year, or Embiid last year, for being honest. Those numbers are definitely by far some of the best numbers in the league, and they're definitely MVP worthy. And when you realize he's also leading his team that isn't that talented to the 4th seed in the Western Conference. Yes, I know he has James Harden on his team, but we have to realize for most of the season he didn't have James Harden. You also have to realize that Ben Simmons was sitting on the bench for most of the season. So for most of the year, his second best player was Tyrese Maxey. who, don't get me wrong, is a good player. He showed that in the playoffs. But at this stage, if he's your second best player, you're not that great of a team. But Embiid was still able to lead them to wins, make them look like one of the best teams in the NBA. That shows how valuable he really is to his team. On offense, he's crazy valuable for the team for obvious reasons. He's the league's leading scorer. He's doing it on great efficiency while being one of the best passing big men in the league. But when it comes to the other side of the floor, I think Embiid has become underrated on defense. He basically locks down the whole paint for Philadelphia while being better in the pick and roll than guys like Joel Embiid. Better in the pick and roll than guys like Rudy Gobert. In my opinion, Embiid has a really strong case, and I think last year he easily would have won the MVP if he hadn't got injured. But this year there is a question of whether or not he should win it. But to answer the question of who I think should win the MVP, I think I'm gonna have to go with Nikola Jokic, and here's why. Jokic is putting up better numbers than Embiid and Giannis. It might not be like by a crazy amount, but it is a noticeable amount. You'll realize his numbers are slightly better just from the box score. If you look at the advanced stats, it's clear that Jokic has been better than both of them at basically everything when it comes to advanced stats. And straight up, Jokic has played the most games out of these three. And to be fair, Jokic has led his team to the least amount of wins out of these three candidates. He hasn't even won 50 games. If we're being honest, Jokic by far has the least help out of these three candidates, and he's only leading them to 3 less wins than both Giannis and Embiid. And when you look at the definition of most valuable player, Jokic has definitely been the most valuable player to his team. And this is coming from a guy who genuinely would rather see Joel Embiid win the MVP, because I think Joel Embiid would have won the MVP last year if he hadn't got injured. But simply, if I'm being unbiased, Jokic has been the most valuable player to his team out of these three candidates. He's been putting up the best stats, and he only has 3 less wins with a way worse team. When you just look at all of that, and on top of that, you look at the voting, he has been leading it. I definitely think he's the MVP. No questions. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Let me know who you think the MVP is. Drop a like on this video. I want my channel grow. Subscribe to my channel if you want daily NBA content. Also, if you want to reach my goal of 3,000 subscribers, also drop a comment on this video, as I do respond to all of your comments. And play that intro.